Hello everyone, welcome to Ready for Battle Painting. Today we're going to be doing a painting tutorial, and we're going to be doing a step-by-step to bring to tabletop level on the Deathguard. The Chaos Space Marines, the evil, decaying, really all round not nice guys. What we're going to do, we're going to get these guys painted and we're going to get them up to a level like this one that I prepared earlier. All this is the colours you can see behind me here. Just 10 colours, 10 paints, and it's brought it up to this level. I mean, this level here, it's nothing difficult. It's going to be really easy, really quick, and it's, to be honest, if you've got 10, 20 Plaguemarines on your table, all looking like this, then you know you're going to have a good looking army, and it's basically not going to be grey plastic. So what we're going to do, we're going to paint these 5 guys. What I find is when painting, a lot of people like to batch paint. I like to do batch painting, but to a certain degree, where 5 models is a good limit for me. I do them in groups of 5, because if you say concentrating on, because we're doing this in steps, I like to do it in steps. Like say I will do all the gold trim on all the armour, and what I'll do it on each model. And if you've only got 5, then it doesn't mean you have to sit there and when you're on your second model thinking, oh, I've got 8 more to go now. You know, you'll only have the last 3 to go. And for me, it's a psychological thing, and you know, everyone does it their own way. You might want to do each model individually. You might want to get all the steps done on each model and then go to the next. But you know, it's completely up to you how you do it. But like I said, I like to work in sticks of 5. And it seems to go really quick for me. So I want to thank everyone who commented on the last videos. You know, I'm trying to improve myself as we go, so the comments are really appreciated. And if you hit that like button, then it'll help people on YouTube find the channel. And you know, if you can subscribe, even better. It'll get my channel out there, and it'll drive me forward to do more and more videos. So, without any further ado, we'll get on with these 5 Deathguard Plaguemarines. So, a little bit of explanation before we get started, guys. Just explain a few things that we've got here. Right, what you'll need, you obviously know what you'll need some brushes. Now, I've only got 3 brushes that I'm going to work with here. You don't need to rush out and buy a million brushes, you just need a few brushes, and what you're looking for, you want a brush you can do some dry brushing with. So the dry brushing technique is where we're going to it clears the excess paint. Rather than putting lots of paint on at a single time, it'll clear the excess paint off the brush, and we'll lightly dust the models to give the raised areas of a model. It'll give them a nice highlight without being too strong. The other brush I've got here is a wash brush. This brush we're going to use with our inks, our shades, and I explain that as we go. And then what you want is a nice brush to do your detail work with a nice point. I don't know if you can see, the focus on the camera is not the best, but you need a nice brush with a nice point. Don't go getting an absolute battered brush that's been, you know, that your dog's been chewing on or anything like that. I mean, I'll show you one of my brushes here. These are some of my older brushes. Right, and you've got really frayed edges, and I've got a horrible thing there, I've got paint in the ferrule and stuff like that. Yeah, just get yourself a nice brush that you can bring to a nice point, and that'll help you out a lot when you do your painting. The next thing you need, I don't know if you can see this white sheet I've got here. This is a piece of palette paper. It's basically, it's like a glossy surface, and we can put our paint on there rather than using it from the top of the bottle itself, from the paint pot itself. We can put it on here and we can add a bit of water to it, and you know, we can thin it down and as much as we want, and then we can get our paint from there, and we can keep control of how much paint we've got on our brush at a time. Obviously the main part, your paints, these are what you need, and I'll explain which paints we need in a minute. But what we'll go on to next, water. You definitely need water when you're painting. You can't just lick the paint off your brush. You need to clean your brush every so often to stop that paint building up on your brush and drying out, because that all it'll do is ruin your bristles and then you'll just have your paintbrushes will, you know, they'll start deteriorating a lot faster than normal, and no one wants that. We spend a bit of money on these paintbrushes. And the next thing, the last thing, a bit of tissue paper. This is good for taking the excess water off your paintbrush, and this is good for using when we're doing the dry brushing technique. So the paints we've got. Now what I've said in the previous video, my intro video, is we're going to concentrate on doing it with the bare amount of paints to get a good looking model. We're just going to concentrate on a few paints, and then from there we can always work up afterwards. So what we've got Elysian green. This will be for your dry brush. This is what we're going to use for the dry brushing when it comes to highlighting the models. You're going to need Abaddon black. I'll tell you what, I'll get the model out here. So Abaddon black, as you can see, on the bolter casing, a bit of the tubing, I don't know what you call this, under layer. If you know, tell me in the comments. I can't think what it'd be called, but tubing and stuff like that, and the under layer of his armour, that's going to be done in Abaddon black. Then put that one there for now. We've got lead belcher. This is going to be used for all the silver details, as you can see on the model. The black grenade here, chainmail at the back, bolter. Next one, we've got Screamer pink. This one is going to be used on all the tentacles. Not all the tentacles, as I'll explain when we get to it, because some of them we're actually going to do in another colour, and it's the same effect, but it just adds a bit more variety to the model. So you Screamer pink. Next one is Balthazar gold. Speak for itself. All your gold details, trims of the armour, little trim round here. Greaves the edges of his armour plating on his legs and wrists and stuff like that. That's all going to be done in gold. Then next we've got Warp Block bronze. Now this one, there's not much of it on this model, but this is a good paint to have because it adds a bit of variety of colour, because that's what you want really. You don't want everything the same colour. So as you can see on this model here, this little thing, this little chaos rune here, this is actually Warp Block bronze. But there's other models like this guy here where we can use a lot more Warp Block bronze on him, because we've got all this detail on his backpacks and stuff like that, and we don't want it all just silver. So we can add a bit of Warp Block bronze to that, and it'll differentiate some of the bits. The next paint we've got Rakarth flesh. So as you can see, Rakarth flesh, any bone details and stuff like that. These little, this little rope coil on his bolter, we've got that as Rakarth flesh. The skull poking out of his shoulder pad here, and the skull in his backpack, all done in Rakarth flesh. And also, like I said before with the tentacles, what we've done, these tentacles here, these have been based with Rakarth flesh. So it just adds a little tiny bit, there's another one there, adds a little tiny bit of difference to the model, rather than all the tentacles being one colour. So that's Rakarth flesh there. And then we'll move on to the shades. So as you can see, I'm running really low on this one. It's about time I got another one, but it'll do for this tutorial. Right, Agrex Earthshade. As you can see, it's a very liquid type material, and what it does, rather than a paint goes on nice and thick and smooth, a shade actually, it's like it's a liquid, so it runs into all the cracks and recesses and stuff like that. So with this, we'll be using it all over the armour to get into these little details. Let me just zoom in. All these little details here, you can see in the little in his faceplate and stuff like that, and these little pock marks in his armour. Around the gold detail, once we've got the gold on, it adds a little shade and a bit of definition to all the areas it touches. It adds, like on this black grenade here, you can see it's just, all it is, rather than being one single colour, it's just toned it down a little bit to give it that nice little transition colour. And the last paint we've got, Druchii Violet. This paint we're going to put it all over the tentacles, the Rakarth flesh tentacles, stuff like that, and it'll, like I said, it'll give that look of shadow and stuff like that round the shaded areas, as you can see in here, and it just gives it a bit more definition really. And the last one, it's not really a colour, but it is a base texture, and this is what we'll use on the base. Sterling mud, there's other ways and methods of basing your models, but this is what I'm going to be using in this tutorial. Just a bit of sterling mud on the bottom of the base, plop it on, and I'll show you how to do that later. And then what I've done, I've dry brushed it again with Rakarth Flesh. But what we'll do, we'll come back to that later. But they're the paints you need. Grab yourself a few nice brushes, like that. Get your little setup ready, grab your models, get a cup of tea on, and we'll get on with it. So guys, here we go, step one. What we're going to do, we're going to put Agrax Earthshade all over the model. This is going to run into all the little cracks and crevices around the armour, and it's going to give a little shaded, it's going to give us some shaded, nice shaded detail to the armour itself, and it'll take the colour down a little bit. So, you didn't see that, but before I started recording, I shook the pot. Always remember to shake the pot. Get the paint mixed up and get the colour mixed up. So what we're going to do, we're going to get our brush in there, and we're going to take a big blob of Agrax Earthshade, and we're going to put it on our palette paper or tile or plate, whatever you use. Just get it on there, and then we're going to clean a bit of it off, and then we're just going to go straight to work on this model. So we're just going to get it all over there. It doesn't matter how rough or smooth you are, because at the end of the day, Deathguard are supposed to look very beaten up and a bit grimy really. So the more the merrier really. Sometimes if you want to use more, just use more. It's up to you. It's going to make the colour even stronger. The more you use, the stronger the colour gets. As you can see, it's running into all the cracks and crevices around here, and it's going to look great when it's done. Really quick, really easy method. Just slap it on. Work it into all the fingers and stuff like that. Don't worry about the other things like the blight grenades here and the bolt gun and stuff like that, because we'll come to them with different colours later. All we're concentrating now is the green armour, the guy himself. That's what we want. So his legs, his feet, his hands, his backpack here as well. Make sure you get that, because this is going to stay Deathguard green. At any point during this video, if you hear the sounds of a demonic presence, like a little nurgling or something like that, don't be afraid. It's just my little lad running around, and he just won't leave me alone sometimes. He always wants to see what I'm doing. Until I get my own little painting area, I think I'll always have that trouble, but with the magic of editing, I'll try and get it out. Right. Oh, we missed a bit there. So I'll get this first guy done like this. So there we go. We've worked the colour into all the areas we needed. You're a liar, there's one bit there. So there we go, that's all it takes. That's how quick it is. Just a minute, just to whap all the colour on there, and then all we do is leave this guy to dry. It'll take about, I'd say about 30-40 minutes for a good dry, and then we can work on him again after that. So once you've got your first guy done, just move straight on to the second one. And even if you've got lots of models to paint, just do a production line. If you've got them all to this first degree here, then it'll take you no time. You can just whack through all of them at once, put a big production line going, but it's up to you how you work. One thing I didn't mention at the start, and I apologise for that, you might notice that these models have started off green and not grey. That's because I sprayed them with Deathguard green as a base coat colour, straight out of the can, primed them, Deathguard green. But what you can do, I mean, you can get the paint itself, which is this one here, Deathguard green, and you can paint this on, but like I say, it's much easier with a spray can. It does cost a little bit more using a spray can, obviously, but it takes less time, so it's up to you the way you do it. And what we're going to do, we're going to carry on doing this until we've got all our models washed and ready. And through the magic of editing, I'm going to speed up this process. So when you see me flying through these models like grease lightning, don't be afraid, I've not been possessed. I've actually just sped up the footage a little bit, and then what we'll do, we'll cut to the finished effect once that little bit's over. So here we go, step 2. As you can see, the model has, well, the wash has completely dried, and it's just added that little layer of depth to the model itself. You might notice, you can see the brown just here, just settling in all these recessed areas just around here, and it's just added that extra bit of depth to the model, so it's not just pure Deathguard green. So the next thing that we're going to do, we're going to use Elysian green. This is going to go on, and we're going to dry brush this on. I've got a dry brush here. You might see it's not got a point like the other brushes. Basically all it's for, it's just for dry brushing over the model to catch those raised areas. And what we're going to do, I'm going to show you how to do it now. If you've never done dry brushing before, it's really, really easy. It's probably one of the easiest methods you can do. Give that a shake. Good shake. Here we go. So all we're looking at doing is getting a little bit on our brushes like this, just a little dab like that, not much at all, that's probably a bit too much. Little dab in the pot, and then what we're going to do, we're going to work it into the bristles on the piece of tissue paper like this, really trying to get rid of it. And then, so what you want is like this. It might seem that there's nothing on the brush, but there's actually there's stuff on the brush, and it's just, all we're going to do is we're going to go backwards and forwards, and we're going to catch all these raised areas that are on the model. And what it's going to do is going to bring a little bit of colour back to the model itself, and that's all we're doing. We're not doing anything major. And if you look at his head now, my camera's not the best in the world, but you can see that it's giving you just a little bit of definition there. And what it's going to do is, like I say, it's going to, you've put the shade, we've had the shade, and that's going to go in the recesses. This is just going to catch those edges, and it's going to give a nice contrast to the model itself. And what we're going to do, we're just going to go all the way over the model, every little bit, catching every surface. And we're just going to keep going back and forth. And it doesn't matter, you can be as rough or as smooth as you want. Like I said, we're not taking ages on this. We're just getting these models on the tabletop, ready to go. And they are, I always see it as, when you're painting away, you get to this ugly stage, and sometimes you can't tell what the model's going to look like in the end, but it's just carrying on with it and persevering through until we eventually hit that end point. So as you see, I'm not going too aggressive. I'm not concentrating on, you know, one area and just going forever and ever on it. I'm just going straight over the model, backwards and forwards, just catching all them areas, not even really particularly bothered where it's going. You can, if you want, you could always choose a different colour, it's up to you, but I like Elysian green because it just gives you that little bit of depth. If you just catch it on the fingers here as well, because the fingers are on these green, because when we get down to the silver part, you're going to see when we paint this Blight Grenade silver that his hand will actually stand out from the rest of it. At the moment it's just another another green part, but once we start adding some more colour in, you'll soon notice that, you know, all these other colours are standing out. I think I've gone all over him now. So there we go. It's not much difference. Let's have a look at him against another model. Maybe it's my camera, but I can see it. I don't know if you can. This guy here looks a little bit brighter than this guy. He looks a bit duller, this one. And that's it. So that's all we do. Just backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. Go straight on to the next one, no messing about. Okay, on to the next step. Now that we've got that dry brush done, it's brought the detail of the model out a little bit. And now we're on to the next stages. Now these next stages are all done with the trusty old paintbrush. So we're going in now and we're actually getting some paint on all these models. Right, so all these steps now, each of these steps that we do, we can do them one by one, and then at the end of it, they're all followed by a wash. So what we're going to do, I'll just explain it. We're going to cover all the bone details and some of the tentacles, if you want, with Rakarth flesh. Then we can do all the silver parts. So we're looking at, let me get my brush. So we're looking at chainmail. We're looking for any bits that need to be silver, maybe not the best model to do it. I'm going to do the vents on the plasma gun here, they're going to be silver. Little tubing like this, silver. We've got this guy here, look, we can see all these silver areas on him. And anything else that we need to pick out, I'll say it as we go. The next colour we can put on after that, we'll do warp lock bronze. This is for any bells or, you know, vent stacks like these. We can put some warp lock bronze on them. Anything else like these little sensors. These can either be Balthazar gold or warp lock bronze. Balthazar gold, like I just said. This will be for stuff like the shoulder pad trim, like these. We can do the little areas of the greaves here. The leg greaves and the leg armour. These little areas here, you can do them in gold as well, like these little details, the neck collar, stuff like that. We can all pick these out in gold. And then the last one is Abaddon black. We're going to do the stuff like your bolter, the tubing on the inside of the armour and stuff like that. These can all be done in black as well. And any other bits that we find, we can just add them as we go and I'll explain them. And then once all those steps are done there, we're just going to hit it with Agrax Earthshade, all on the bits that we've done, except if we do any of the tentacles with Rakarth flesh. What we're going to do, we're going to leave these till the next step, and I'll explain again as we go through it. So, what I'm going to do is line my paints up, and I'm going to start with Balthazar gold. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to start painting, taking care where I'm going, give the paint a little shake. And what we're going to do now, what you want to do, like the great and holy Duncan on Warhammer TV says, always thin your paint. So what you want to do, get a little bit of blob of your paint on your palette, like that, and then what you want to do is just add a touch of water, not much, just dip your tip of your brush into the water, get it in there so it's running nice and smooth. Get your bristles to a nice point, and then what we're going to do is just go in and we're going to start blocking out these areas. Now here you see, this is the shoulder trim here. We're just going to get all that and that's going to be gold. So we're just going to take our time and go through all these parts. It's not much to do really. I mean, with this guy here, you could even go so far, you could do these skulls on here, you could do them gold or warp block bronze. It's up to you, it's completely up to you what you want to do, but for this tutorial, we're just going to paint the trims gold. You don't have to go under the shoulder trim like this. I always do, it's just a habit that I do. I just seem to always want to get the little bits under there. You don't have to, because no one's going to see that part of your model really. And I've just got gold on this guy. Oh, well that's no good. Just get it right on his head there. So what I'm going to do, just wash the brush off quick. I'm going to try and get rid of that now. Just get some water on there. And I'm using my paper towel. And we can always go back into there and get rid of it. I don't know where that gold's come from. It's on my finger somewhere, I think. Never mind. At the end of the day, don't worry too much if you get a little blob here and there on your models. It's not going to matter, because at the end of the day, once you get the whole thing done, you can always come back and touch up little details. Now these details here, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, but these ones here around the leg guards, just take your time and just pick them out slowly with the tip of your brush. Get as far down as you want, like that. And then when it comes to the wash, what it'll do, any little tiny mistakes you've made, if you're nice and careful, there you go, there's the trim on there. If you're nice and careful, any of the little mistakes you've made, they'll be covered up. The wash will dull down some of those little tiny mistakes, and to be honest, it won't be too noticeable unless someone's holding your model 2 inches away from the face. They're not going to see it, and especially when it's on the tabletop like we're planning on getting these guys to, it's not going to matter too much, guys. So let's just finish this leg off. There we go. Any other bits that we could pick out, like your little banding round here on the top of his on his belly plate. Now you could just pick this out here like this, bit of gold on there. Is there any other pieces we could pick out? No, so it's just, all I need to do now is the shoulder guard, these trims. I might do the front of his plasma gun here, hit that with a bit of gold. And then we'll just carry on with all the other guys, and then we'll be on to the next stage then. So remember, when you're painting, it's always an idea to just, you know, I like to do it every time I'm about to get some paint. I like to take a tiny bit of water just to get some moisture in your brush, and it helps the bristles flow and it keeps the paint wet. Okay, now we've got the gold on. As you can see, we've got it around the trims and the shoulder pads. Picked out some little icons. We've done the front of the plasma gun. This guy is same as. Got the front of the plasma gun, icons, anything like that. Just pick it out gold, and then that's one area that's done, completed. As you see, we picked out just one of the vent stacks on this guy because one's going to be silver and we'll do the other one a different colour. So that's all the gold bits done. So then we're going to move on to the next colour. Now, in the last step I mentioned the colours we were using. I forgot to mention we're going to use Screamer Pink in this step as well now, because I didn't realise, I forgot about the tabards. Some of these guys where, well, he's got one here, this little cloak. This cloak here, we're going to pick that out with Screamer Pink. This will be a quick step because I think it's only him who's got some Screamer Pink on him. But we're not going to pick out all the tentacles and stuff like that at the moment. It's just because we're not washing them with Agrax Earthshade. So this will come in the step when we do all our washes. So what I'm going to do now, just going to pick out the cloak on this guy. Give it a good shake. Let's get some of this onto our palette. It's quite gloopy, this paint, because I need a new pot of it. So yeah, if you do get any paints, guys, that are a bit too thick, a bit gloopy, just make sure you give them a good bit of water, thin them down. I want it to flow really nicely. Like if you look now, that's coming off all right. I'm just going to get rid of some of this excess on the tissue here. A bit too much on there. And what we'll do, another tiny dab of water, just to get it running a bit smoother. And then we're going to start. Okay, so what we're doing, we're just picking this cloak out here. Now I've finished using that Screamer Pink on the cloaks, it's time to go to the next colour. We're going to choose Abaddon Black, and this is, we're going to do the banding, any weapon casings like your plasma gun here, stuff like the banding. Oh, what was that? Completely out of focus then. The banding on the back of the legs here. Little tubes here on the backpacks, you can see these, just little details. We're just going to pick them out one by one. There's not too many of them. You can see the little tubes here on the backpack. I usually pick these out. This guy, he's got lots of tubes all over him, so we're going to pick some of these out in black. Some of them are going to be picked out in silver. As you can see, the seals on his suit here, these are going to be picked out in black. You just need to be a little bit careful on these ones. But other than that, there's not much else to pick out black wise. You've got the bolter here. We're just going to pick it all out black anyway. It's just going to be black. Tubing, once again, all that kind of stuff. Really simple, guys. So what we're going to do, give the paint a good shake. As per, get it open. I'm going to take a little bit out, put it on our palette, and then add a touch of water. Get a nice drop of water, really mix it in. Get to a nice point. Move him out of the way. Then what we're going to do, we're going to look for any little bits that we want to paint black. So on this guy, there's not really that much on this guy. Plasma gun, so we're going to start with the plasma gun. Touch more water, I think. And there we go. So there's that step done, that's the black applied. As you can see, we've got it on the bolters, tubing around this guy, pipes and tubes, stuff like that, little tubes on the backpack. I've even done the vents here. Really easy to do. If you just water down your black a little bit further, and it turns it a little bit runny, you can just shove it straight in there, and then any excess you can just prick off with your thumb like that, give it a little wipe, and it'll come out. Like I said, all the inner suit, the links between the suit here. We've got them bits done. Plasma gun. Like I said, we're going to paint all the casing of the plasma gun, and then obviously all the inside bits we can paint. Like there's bits we can pick out that are silver, which is the next step, funnily enough. So next paint we're going on to lead belcher. We've got this guy here, and obviously before, when I was at the start, when I was explaining what paints to use, I didn't notice his huge sword. So yeah, we're going to pick out this big bad boy here. We've got the chainmail to pick out. We've got a little icon on his knee that I can pick out, but we've got certain things we can pick out. I mean, if you just use your imagination of where you think the silver will go, you can choose where it goes, but I'm just showing you where I would put it in these videos. So stuff like tubing, obviously your bolter. So you're going to look at things like the muzzle, the sights, you've got the back plate here, you've got the magazine housing around here. So we're going to pick all these areas out, and then you've got the blight grenades as well. These can be painted in lead belcher because we're going to put some washes on them later. This guy here, he's got a bit of a different crack grenade there. It's got an actual rotting head on it, so we're going to leave that one's not going to be painted in lead belcher, but we'll do that one in the next step when we start using Rakarth flesh. So let's get to it. Give the paint a shake. There. That was tasty. I just opened that and got some paint in my mouth. Yum. I was hungry anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So what we're going to do, like before, bit of paint on our palette, a little bit more, get a few little scoops on the palette, and then we're going to thin it down a touch with a bit of water, mix it in, get it flowing nice and smooth. And here we go. So that's the lead belcher on. Now it's time for the last bit before we give it an Agrex Surfshade wash. We're going to go with Rakarth flesh. Now this is going to be applied on areas like the teeth here, the horns, any horns that we find, skulls on the miniature, anything that needs bone details. We're going to just hit all these with Rakarth flesh, and then at the end of that we'll give them all a wash. So this is the last stage now before we go on to our Agrex Surfshade wash. So as always, give it a shake, and once again a little bit out on your palette, little touch of water, and then we're just going to find any of those areas that have got skulls on, and we're just going to get it slapped on there. Like I said before, once it's got a bit of water, it has a bit more flow to it. So like stuff like this shoulder pad here, where you've got all these eyes on these skulls, it'll flow into them little areas. So if you put it on just straight out of the pot, it'll be a bit harder to manipulate into them areas. So if you just add a little bit of water each time, or every couple of times you go to your palette, put a little bit of water on your brush, and then go back in. Okay, so with the bone details done now, the Rakov flesh, I've already put this warp block bronze on because putting the video together I realised how long in editing this video is. So what I'm going to do, I've done the warp block bronze, I've just hit a few little areas, like you can see his knee guard here, the back of some of the backpacks, picked out some little icons and stuff. It was really little areas, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop this video here, and then in the next video we'll come back, we'll put the washes on all these areas, and then we'll do all the guts, tentacles and stuff like that, and then the base in the next video, and that'll be the models completed and finished. So thanks for sticking with me. I know it's been a long one. I'll look at in the future making them a bit shorter, obviously, and if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, everything helps out. Leave me a comment, tell me what you liked, if you found the video, you know, inspiring, or you know, you've taken some tips away and painted your own models, anything like that would be absolutely appreciated. So thanks for joining me guys, and I'll see you in part 2. This is Ready for Battle signing out. Be lucky.